Have you ever felt pressured by your in-laws? Imagine being a woman with a career and your own life, only to be pushed into becoming a full-time nanny for your in-laws. This is just one of the most thought-provoking Reddit relationship stories. You'll want to hear, what would you do if you were in her shoes? Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts in the comments. The struggle within a Reddit relationship story. It was a regular Tuesday afternoon when Emma found herself sitting at the kitchen table, a cup of lukewarm coffee in front of her, her mind racing faster than the hours that seemed to slip by unnoticed. She had always been the type of woman who prided herself on independence. Her career as a marketing executive was thriving, and she had built a life that was hers and hers alone. But that afternoon, something was different. The familiar hum of her work emails and the comfortable silence of her apartment couldn't mask the tension that had been building inside her for months. It had all started innocuously enough requests to babysit here and there, small favors from her in-laws that she never thought twice about. She loved her husband, Mark, and had always gotten along with his family. But things had started to shift after she had moved in with Mark after their marriage. What began as casual weekend visits soon transformed into constant demands. At first, it was just weekends, then it was weekdays. Before she knew it, she was expected to be there for her mother-in-law and father-in-law as if she were their full-time caregiver. Emma tried to dismiss the mounting discomfort, but it became undeniable. One evening, Mark came home from work earlier than expected. He walked in with a look that Emma immediately recognized, the kind of look that said he was about to drop her. "Bombshell, Emma, we need to talk," he said, his voice flat. The sound of his words sent a wave of dread through her. She had seen it coming, but hearing it spoken aloud made her stomach churn. She put down the report she had been working on and braced herself. "What's going on?" she asked, her voice betraying a hint of concern. Mark sat down next to her, his expression unreadable. "My parents. They've asked if you could help them more, like, a lot more. They're really struggling, and they think you're the one who can help." Emma's heart pounded. "Help with what exactly?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Mum needs someone to help around the house, and Dad's health isn't great. They just feel like they don't have enough support," Mark explained. "They don't want to burden us." But his words trailed off, and the unspoken part hung in the air between them. She could feel the weight of his words settling into her chest, suffocating her. She loved her in-laws, but she had made it clear, time and time again, that she was not their nanny. But in that moment, Mark's eyes pleaded with her. He didn't want to disappoint his parents, and Emma knew that. But as much as she tried to understand, the resentment bubbled inside her. "I can't, Mark," she said, her voice low but firm. "I have my own life. My career is important to me. I've been juggling work, my friends, and everything else. I'm already stretched thin. I can't just drop everything and become their full-time caregiver." Mark looked at her, his expression a mixture of frustration and guilt. "I get it, Emma, I really do. But my parents, they're not getting any younger. They need help, and you're the only one they trust. Can't you at least try?" The words cut deeper than she expected. "So, you want me to just give up everything for them?" Emma's voice cracked slightly, despite her attempt to stay composed. "I've worked so hard to build this career, and now I'm supposed to throw it all away for them." Mark's face softened, but it didn't ease the storm inside Emma. "I don't want you to give everything up," he said gently. "But I also can't just turn my back on them. They're family." The word family echoed in her ears. She'd always believed that family was about support and love, not about crossing boundaries. She stared at him, searching for a way to convey the depth of her frustration without it all unraveling. "I get that they need help," Emma said, her voice trembling with emotion. "But what about me? What about us? You're asking me to sacrifice everything I've worked for, and for what?" To become a second-class citizen in my own marriage, there was a long silence. Mark looked at her, and she saw the struggle in his eyes. He wasn't heartless, he was just caught between two worlds. He loved his parents, but he loved her too. She could see the conflict tearing him apart. She stood up, pacing the room, trying to make sense of her emotions. You don't understand. I'm not just your wife. I'm a person, Mark. I need my career, my space, my freedom. Her voice was rising now, and she felt the heat of her anger take over. If this continues, I don't know what I'll do. I can't just give my life away. I won't. Mark stood up, stepping toward her. His hand reached out, but she pulled back instinctively. She wasn't ready to be comforted yet, not when everything felt like it was slipping away. I don't want to lose you, Emma. I don't know what else to do. They need us, he said, his voice breaking. And I need me. Mark, Emma whispered, tears welling in her eyes. I need to remember who I am outside of being someone's wife, someone's caregiver. I need to find myself again. She didn't know where this conversation would lead, but she knew one thing for sure: it had marked the beginning of a painful journey. Her heart ached for the love she had for her husband, for his family, and for the life they had built together. But she also knew that if she lost herself in the process, she would lose everything that mattered. Emma wasn't ready to make a choice yet. But one thing was clear: it wasn't going to be easy. And as the night stretched on, she realized that this battle wasn't just about caregiving. It was about boundaries, about balance, and about the most important thing of all, herself. The perspective of Mark, a struggle between love and duty. Mark had never imagined that a simple conversation with his wife could unravel everything he held dear. The day had started like any other. He had left for work, and Emma had been busy with her marketing reports, as usual. But as the day went on, something gnawed at him. The phone calls from his parents, the subtle hints, the growing pressure, they were all building to a point he couldn't ignore any longer. He had hoped the issue would solve itself, but deep down, he knew it wouldn't. He had to bring it up with Emma Dodd as soon as he walked through the door. The familiar feeling of unease settled over him. Emma was sitting at the kitchen table, her focus on her work. She looked up as he entered, and he saw the flicker of recognition in her eyes. She knew something was off, just like he did. But how could he explain to her that he was caught in a crossfire, forced to choose between the woman he loved and the family who had raised him? Emma, we need to talk, Mark had said, the words tasting foreign on his tongue. It was the beginning of a conversation he never wanted to have, but one he knew was inevitable. Dodd, as he spoke to her, he could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on him. He watched her face, saw the shift in her expression as he revealed the situation. Her eyes, which had once sparkled with excitement about their future together, clouded over with frustration and disappointment. Every word he spoke seemed to push her further away, and his heart sank deeper with each passing second. Emma's reaction was more intense than he had expected. He could feel the anger radiating from her, the bitterness, the betrayal. Mark had always believed that family came first, that the bond between him and his parents was unbreakable. But now he was starting to wonder if he had been wrong all along, when she told him that she couldn't, and wouldn't, sacrifice her life for them. He felt a knot tighten in his stomach. His parents weren't just asking for help, they were demanding it, with all the desperation and hope that only a parent could have. His mother's voice had been full of tears when she called him earlier that day. She was exhausted, her health deteriorating, and his father wasn't much better. They had no one else to turn to, and Emma, the woman he loved, was the one person they trusted to step in and fill that gap. But Emma had a point. What about her? What about her dreams, her ambitions? Mark had always admired how driven she was. She had built her career from the ground up, something she had worked so hard for. He could see how much it meant to her. But now he was being asked to choose between that and his family. His parents had done so much for him, raised him, loved him unconditionally. Could he really let them down when they needed him the most? The more Mark thought about it, the more torn he became. He loved Emma, truly. But he also loved his parents, and he couldn't ignore their needs. How could he ask Emma to put aside her life for them? How could he expect her to be the one to sacrifice everything when his parents had already given so much? As the conversation continued, Mark could feel the distance between them growing wider. Emma's words, sharp and full of emotion, cut deeper than he expected. She wasn't just angry at the situation, she was hurt. She felt invisible in their marriage, as if her needs and desires didn't matter anymore. Mark saw the frustration in her eyes, and it struck him like a blow to the chest. He had never wanted her to feel that way. "I'm not just your wife, Mark," she had said, her voice trembling. "I'm a person. I need my career, my life, my space. I can't be what they need me to be." Her words echoed in his mind long. After she had left the room, he had tried to explain, tried to make her see that this wasn't about them, that it wasn't about her giving up everything for the family. But the more he spoke, the more she seemed to pull away. She wasn't just resisting the idea of becoming a full-time caregiver. She was resisting being diminished, losing herself in a role that didn't fit her. Mark felt the weight of his choices pressing down on him. He didn't know how to fix this. He didn't know how to make Emma understand that this wasn't just about family obligations, it was about love, duty, and the people who had shaped him. But he also knew that Emma's needs were valid. She deserved to be heard, to be supported in the same way that his parents were demanding his support. The internal conflict was tearing him apart. How could he reconcile the love for his parents and his wife, both of whom needed him in different ways? He wanted to be the husband Emma deserved, the one who supported her dreams and career, the one who made her feel seen and heard. But how could he also be the son his parents needed, the one who stepped in to take care of them when they had no one else? That night, as Mark lay in bed beside Emma, he couldn't sleep. The silence between them felt suffocating, like a heavy blanket that smothered every thought and emotion. He reached out, hoping she would turn to him, but she didn't. She had her back to him, and for the first time in their marriage, Mark felt truly alone. He wanted to fix everything, to make things right, but he didn't know how. His heart was split into half with Emma, the woman he loved, and half with his parents, the people who had given him everything. He couldn't choose, but in his silence, he realized he was already making a choice. And that terrified him. More than anything else, the struggle wasn't just about caring for his parents. It was about finding a balance between love and duty, between selflessness and self-preservation. And as Mark lay there, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders, he knew that the hardest part was still to come. The question wasn't just about what to do, it was about how to move forward without losing what mattered most. The breaking point, a clash of love, duty, and identity. Weeks had passed since the conversation with Mark, but Emma felt as if she were trapped in a storm she couldn't escape. Her life had been a balancing act of work, friendships, and her role as a wife. She had built her career from the ground up, sacrificed countless hours, and poured herself into a future that was her own. She had dreams, ambitions, and a sense of self she was fiercely protective of. But with every passing day, those dreams seemed to slip further away, and the weight of Mark's family's demands grew heavier. The tension was palpable in their home. Mark had tried to be understanding, but there was no escaping the pressure. Every time his parents called, every time they sent a text asking for more help, Emma felt a tightening in her chest. She knew that, at the end of the day, Mark would always choose his family. He was caught in a web of love, duty, and guilt, unable to see how much his actions were slowly suffocating her. One night, Mark came home later than usual. He had just spoken with his parents again, and it was clear from his face that the situation had escalated. Emma, who had been lost in her thoughts for the last few hours, barely registered his entrance until she felt his presence looming in the doorway. He was standing there, looking at her, his expression unreadable. "Emma, we need to talk," he said again, his voice calm but firm. The familiar words made her stomach churn. She hadn't been able to escape this conversation, and it seemed like it would never end. She stood up from the couch, unable to hide her frustration any longer. "What is it now, Mark? What do they want this time?" "Another day of babysitting, more chores. I can't keep doing this." Mark's face faltered, a brief flash of guilt crossing his features. "They're asking for more, Emma. They want someone to stay with them full time. They don't have anyone else, and they're really struggling. Mom's health is getting worse, and Dad can't manage on his own anymore. They just don't have anyone else." Emma's breath caught in her throat. She had known this moment was coming, but hearing it spoken aloud felt like a slap to the face. She had tried to be understanding, tried to ignore the creeping resentment that had taken root inside her. But now it was all crashing down. "Do you even hear yourself, Mark?" she snapped, her voice shaking with anger. "You want me to drop everything, my career, my future, my life, just to become their full-time caregiver? Do you really think that's fair? Do you even care what this is doing to me?" Mark took a step forward, his eyes softening with the weight of his words. "I don't want to hurt you, Emma, but I can't just ignore my parents. They need me, they're my family." Emma's eyes blazed with fury. "And what about me? What am I to you, Mark? Am I just a tool to fulfill their needs? A convenient wife who has to drop everything every time they call?" The words hit Mark like a punch to the gut. He had never intended to make her feel this way, but now the truth was undeniable. He was torn between two worlds: his love for his wife and his loyalty to his family. It wasn't that he didn't care about Emma. It was that he didn't know how to navigate the demands of both sides without breaking down. "I love you, Emma," he whispered, his voice breaking. "I don't want to lose you, but I can't just turn my back on them. I can't let them suffer. They're my parents. They raised me, and I owe them everything. Do you owe me nothing?" Emma's voice was barely audible, but the pain in her words was evident. She took a step back, wrapping her arms around herself as if she were trying to shield her heart from the weight of his words. "I've given everything for this marriage. I've compromised, I've adjusted, but you're asking me to give up who I am. You're asking me to lose myself for them." The silence that followed was suffocating. Neither of them spoke for what felt like an eternity, both lost in their own swirling emotions. Mark could feel his chest tightening, his heart heavy with guilt. He wanted to fix this, wanted to make Emma understand. But how could he? How could he explain to her that he was drowning in a sea of expectations, unable to choose between the two people he loved the most? "I don't know what you want from me anymore," Emma whispered, her voice cracking under the weight of her emotions. "I don't know how much more I can give." Mark's eyes softened, but the tension in the room remained thick. He could see the pain in Emma's eyes, the exhaustion that had settled deep within her. He wanted to reach out, to comfort her, but something was holding him back. He didn't know how to fix this, how to make her see that he wasn't intentionally trying to hurt her. But the truth was, he wasn't sure he could live with the consequences of making the wrong choice. "I don't want to choose between you and my parents," Mark said, his voice barely above a whisper. "But it feels like I have to." Emma's heart shattered at his words. She had always thought that love meant compromise, that a partnership meant supporting one another no matter what. But now, as she stood in front of him, she realized that love didn't always mean sacrifice. Sometimes, it meant standing up for yourself, even if it meant losing the one person you thought you couldn't live without. You don't have to choose, Emma replied, her voice steady despite the tears that burned in her eyes. But if you want me to be a part of your life, I need to know that I matter. I need to know that I'm not just a background character in your story. Mark's heart clenched. He had never meant to make her feel small, but in that moment, he realized that was exactly what he had done. He had put his parents' needs above hers, and now, it seemed like there was no way to fix it. I'm sorry, he whispered, his voice filled with regret. I never meant for you to feel this way. Emma shook her head, stepping back as she wiped her tears away. Sorry doesn't fix this, Mark. I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it's not. I need space. I need time to figure out what I want. For the first time, Mark understood the gravity of the situation. He had always thought he could juggle everything: his marriage, his family, his responsibilities. But now he realized that the balance he had tried so hard to maintain was collapsing, and there was no way to hold it all together. He had to choose, and the choice he made would define the rest of his life. As Emma turned away, Mark felt a deep sense of loss settle over him. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew one thing for sure: this was the breaking point. The moment when everything changed, and no matter how hard he tried, there was no going back. The ending, a new beginning, and the lessons learned at the days that followed were a blow for Emma and Mark. They both retreated into their separate worlds, nursing wounds that had been long festering beneath the surface. Emma had taken a step back, needing the space to think, to reconnect with herself. Mark, on the other hand, was left with the overwhelming realization that the price of keeping everyone happy had been too high. For a while, their home was silent. No more impromptu meetings about his parents, no more small talk about the future. But in that silence, they both found the clarity they needed. Emma spent her time diving into her work, something she had neglected for too long. She realized that her sense of self wasn't just tied to being a wife or a caregiver, it was tied to her passions, her career, and her dreams. Mark, on the other hand, faced the uncomfortable truth that he had failed to protect the most important relationship in his life. He had allowed his family's needs to overshadow his partnership with Emma. Eventually, Mark made a decision. He went to Emma one evening, as she sat at her desk, deep in thought. There was no drama this time, no anger or frustration, just a man who had come to terms with his choices, ready to make things right. Emma, he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion, I've been thinking a lot. And I realize now that I've made mistakes. I put my family's needs before yours, and I didn't listen when you told me how much it hurt you. I love you, and I know I have to prove it. Not just with words, but with actions. You matter to me more than anything else. I want us to rebuild. Emma looked at him, her heart aching at the sincerity in his voice. For a moment, she didn't say anything. The pain was still there, but so was the love. She knew that relationships weren't perfect, and no one was immune to mistakes. It wasn't about being right or wrong, it was about growth and change. I don't need you to choose between me and your parents, Emma said softly. I just need you to see me. To understand that my dreams and my life matter too. I've spent so much time caring for everyone else, I forgot to care for myself. And now, I'm learning to put myself first. Mark nodded, a weight lifting off his chest. I understand, and I'll be here, every step of the way. Whatever you need, I'll support you. That night, as they sat together on the couch, no longer strangers to one another, they talked openly for the first time in months. They discussed their fears, their aspirations, and what they both needed to feel fulfilled in their relationship. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where both of them would be seen, heard, and respected. The lessons learned, the power of boundaries and self-respect story of Emma and Mark's struggle is not just about family obligations or the pressure of expectations. It is about finding balance in a world that constantly pulls us in different directions. It's about learning that love is not about self-sacrifice to the point of losing yourself, but about mutual respect and understanding. The lesson here is simple: you cannot pour from an empty cup. Self-care is not selfish, it is essential. If we don't prioritize our own well-being, we lose the ability to fully show up for the people we love. Lesson 1. The importance of setting boundaries. One of the most powerful lessons from this story is the importance of setting boundaries. When Emma stood her ground, expressing her need for independence and self-respect, she made it clear that her identity was not defined by her role as a wife or a caregiver. Boundaries are necessary in any relationship, especially in family dynamics. Saying no is not a reflection of selfishness, but of self-respect. If we don't set boundaries, we risk losing ourselves in the process of pleasing others. Lesson 2. The cost of sacrificing yourself. Emma's journey teaches us the cost of sacrificing our own happiness for the sake of others. At first, she tried to be the perfect wife, the perfect daughter-in-law, and the perfect professional. But in doing so, she lost sight of her own dreams, her own needs. Her breakthrough came when she realized that putting herself first didn't mean she loved others any less. It meant she could love herself more. In relationships, we often feel pressured to give more and more, thinking that it will make us better partners. But sometimes, the greatest gift we can give to others is to take care of ourselves. When we do this, we show up more fully in our relationships, offering not just our time, but our energy and emotional availability. Lesson 3. Love is about mutual respect. Final lesson is that love should be rooted in mutual respect and understanding. Mark's realization that he had been blind to Emma's needs opened the door for healing. He didn't just apologize, he took responsibility for his actions and made a conscious effort to support her, not just with words, but with actions. This shift in their dynamic created the foundation for a stronger, healthier relationship. In any relationship, both partners need to feel valued. Love isn't about who sacrifices the most, but about who respects the other's individuality and supports their growth. Emma and Mark learned that love is not just about compromise. It's about understanding each other's needs and growing together, a call to action. So, what can we take away from Emma and Mark's journey? It's simple: don't lose yourself in the process of loving others. Set boundaries, prioritize your well-being, and always communicate openly about your needs. Relationships thrive when both people are respected, loved, and heard. If you've ever found yourself caught between your own dreams and the expectations of others, take a moment to reflect. Are you setting boundaries that honor your true self? Are you allowing yourself to prioritize your happiness? If not, it's time to make a change. Start by taking small steps to reclaim your time, your energy, and your dreams. I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced a situation like Emma's and Mark's? How did you handle the pressure of family expectations? Leave a comment below and share your story. Don't forget to like if this story resonated with you, and subscribe for more heartfelt stories and lessons on navigating love, life, and everything in between. You deserve to be seen, heard, and respected just as much as the people you love. Take that first step today.